So, yeah, we're looking at this property. I know some of you, I'm not sure who all was able to get out there last weekend and walk through it. We have a pamphlet put together. John is passing them out. 810 East 3rd Street in Florence. We have it under contract. We are needing to go ahead. We do need member approval. So we're giving this presentation. We'll be opening up for some, might be limited question and answer. We'll see how the time goes. So, yeah, this is be the front of the building. It is, what's the square footage? Do you remember, Matt? 6,300-ish. And then we have some stuff inside for a floor plan. I will have Matt come up here and sort of go through some of the building side of it, and then Mark will come up and go through the financial page that we have in here. And then at the end, we do have a ballot that if you are ready to cast a ballot and are a member here, we would ask that would be turned in today. I'll go through it when we get to there too, but we do ask for names, not because we want to know what you voted, but so we can, because there are a lot of people who are not here. We just want to be able to contact those so we can get votes from the majority of the church, if at all possible. Matt, would you want to come up and say what you have to say?
Very good. Well, good morning. What's not to love about this church house, right? I mean, we have fresh art every Sunday or every month, and we have pink walls. We have a lovely kitchen. It's just a great place to gather, but it really has served us well, and it's kind of a quaint little church house. But I think I don't know how long ago it was when we first voted to put a committee on board to do this. I think we all saw the need or felt the need for something else. And things have come up, and we've looked at them, and we've looked at various buildings in various places. We looked at a property, didn't feel right. That was the first one we voted on. Didn't quite feel right. Maybe location was part of the thing, where it was at, dirt road, some of those things. We actually had looked at this building. I don't know exactly when it was. Was it a year and a half ago? Something like that, we looked at it. The price tag on it was about $200,000 more than it is today. And, you know, God works in various ways. I don't know, is that God working, or is it just being desperate to sell the building, or what it is? I don't know, but it's in our favor. It's in our favor. The building is, as Travis alluded to, it is about 6,000 square feet. How many of you went and looked at it? So quite a few of you looked at it. And I'm sorry, I couldn't be there. I know Stan wasn't there. There was a lot of us not there that day. But when you walk in there, it feels kind of tight, and there's a lot of rooms, and there's a lot of little toilets everywhere. But we would have a plan to take care of some of that. This is the building, for those of you who haven't seen. There's quite a few things that it has. One, it has a parking lot. It has landscaping. It has a playground. It has a fenced-in area. A couple Sundays ago, maybe a month and a half ago, I was out here, and there was kids playing down in this big, deep ditch. I don't know that we recommend to do that, but we have a playground and a fence. For those of you who have little kids, I don't care if my kids go in the ditch, but yours, you may not want them down there. So it's a metal building. It's a freestanding building. So in other words, it's a steel structure, and it spans the whole thing. So what that allows us to do is go on the inside and remove all those walls and rebuild to what we need. And if you go to Travis says there is. Travis, go back to that one. There we go. So we have the parking in the front. There's parking on the far side, on the top side of that. There's some parking. There is a question of whether we have enough parking. That's the middle button, okay. So there's parking here. There's parking here. there's a question of, so parking goes with occupancy. How many people we put in the building, we have to have so much parking. And so, but we have this space here, which we can do something with. The whole property is 2.3 some acres, so it's under 3 acres, not quite 2.5 acres. This here, I believe, is a drainage ditch. We probably can't do anything with this. This is a really cool amphitheater. I don't know what we're gonna do with it, but it's a really cool amphitheater. So for those of you who are interested in outdoor events or whatever, there's a couple covered pavilions. You could eat outside, you could, whatever. Like, they're kind of a cool little buildings. Couple little outbuildings. I'm not exactly sure what's in all of those, but this area here could be expanded for a parking lot. Anyway, so we don't have a plan of like, this is what we're gonna do. And Mark will get the numbers. We, in the numbers, we have estimated remodel costs, just roughly, of what it will take to do some remodeling, because we obviously need to remodel. There's no sanctuary, there's no fellowship hall. Kitchen is not very big, but the benefit is there is a kitchen. If you go on to the next slide, Travis. So this is kind of a rough idea. Take out a few walls and kind of, hey, just get us in there. And it's just to prove that we can seat enough people. We scaled it so we can seat enough people. But I think there will be some issues with this one. We're gonna need handicap accessible bathrooms, and that bathrooms also go with occupancy. So I actually have a appointment this week with Ashley at the building department to see what we would need to do. So those are some of the things we're following up on. But like, hey, we can get people in here. And then going on to the next slide, this is more of a, hey, we're gonna buy once, cry once thing. We're gonna put a sanctuary in, we're gonna put a classroom, and I don't know how many of you mothers noticed there's an, Ali commented this morning, there's a nursery, a real nursery. Bathrooms, expanding the kitchen a little bit, fellowship hall. And this is not like, hey, this is what we're gonna do. This is like, hey, this is something we could do. And this here gets me kind of excited. I don't know about you. When I look at that kitchen, I get a little excited. Classrooms, so there's room to do what we need to do. I don't know, I'm not gonna get into Mark's part here, but for me, the price point, we're not gonna build anything like this for this. The location, we're not gonna find land in Florence to be able to build something like this in the location. I think location was, the last time when we asked, location was a big deal. Some people didn't want to drive out there, and then we don't have to like, we have to remodel, but we don't have to physically go out and dig a footer and build things. So I don't know about you, but to me, this is kind of exciting. And maybe y'all like the art. Maybe you just want to stay here. I don't know, Travis, do you want to open it for questions at this point, or do you want to wait until we're done? Okay, so again, I'm not going to get into Mark. I just want to look at my note. Yeah, I think I covered everything that I wanted to cover. So I'll turn it over to Mark, and then if you have any questions, I guess on my part, I think this would work for us. Just my own personal feel. I think this would work for us. Price point, I like it. I am probably more of a buy once, cry once kind of guy. I would love to see this, because my idea is, and I've been in homes that we've remodeled, and we're doing little bits at a time, and it's really hard to do that. Like, if we do the whole thing at once, and I think we've thrown that into the budget, and again, that's Mark's part, but the idea of going in and doing what we need to do, and then we're done. The idea of trying to just get us in there, and that doesn't seem very attractive for me. I just know how much dust and construction, I just know what goes on. And then, if we do remodel through phases, it's hard to have church through those things. So those are my opinions. I'm not saying that that's what we have to do, but that would be probably my I mean, I love this idea, so. Anyway, so I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. I'll turn the time over to Mark.
Okay, now for the boring stuff. Can you guys see that, or do you have your papers? Can you see that, though? Okay, well, anyway, I share Matt's excitement with that last drawing. I had the privilege of putting that together, and it was kind of fun to make a room and type nursery in it. So this is what I was talking about earlier. This was the pledges that came in. I get to see that, and that blessed me. And I want to bless you for expecting to help with the finances. So I was told my responsibility is to look at affordability and risk. So the question comes to, is it affordable, or can we afford it? And for people like my wife that don't like numbers, according to this paper, yes, we can. So now you can stop listening if you don't like numbers. But I will break it down a little bit more. If you've seen this, you've probably seen this before. At the top, we have the property and the renovations. Matt mentioned we looked at the renovations again and thought we had originally had 100,000. We're looking at 130 now. So we updated the numbers to reflect that with an all-in of 680. And then the building fund has, I should have maybe rounded these numbers, but anyway, 278.80 is what we have in the building fund right now. There was pledges that came in, 77.7. There was actually, since I put this together yesterday, there was more that came in. It is now up to 83.2, but I didn't want to update the paper this morning and try to. But anyway, we'll look at the numbers we sent out last night. And then we have monthly pledges of about almost $2,000. That is people who have committed to give this much a month instead of just one time. So with the pledges, the money that people have said that they would give before closing, and with our cash on hand, gives us a balance of $356.5, which is 52.4% of our all-in cost. And I'll talk a little bit more about that pretty soon. The remainder to be financed, $323,400. We have a very generous person who offered a $200,000 loan at 0% interest. The generosity with this project has been awesome. So that gives us enough to buy the building with the cash we have on hand, the pledges the one-time pledges that are coming in, and this $200,000 interest-free loan. That gives us enough cash to purchase the property without having to deal with any commercial lenders or anything like that. And then the remainder to be financed as of last night was $123,000, almost $500, and assuming that at 7% for 10 years puts a monthly payment of $1,433.77. So if you add that to we assumed the $200,000 loan at 15 years. The person was very generous and even offered it up to 20 years, but I'll talk a little bit more why we don't really want to do that, why we want to keep it a little shorter. So if the two loans together, there's the payment for the $200,000, here's the payment for the rest, leaves a total monthly debt service of about $2,550. So if we go on down, so here's where it's a little bit, we're trying to look at the past to predict the future, and no one can do that with any kind of certainty, but I tried to be conservative and not pad the numbers, if you will. I looked at what we've had so far this year and then looked at the history to try to project what offerings may be for the next 5 years. And you can see them there. I have the years all, and then the offering that we're expecting. The building fund gets 20% of the offering. So if we add that to the pledges that came in for monthly, the people that are offering to give designated monthly for this project, we add those together, we get the column on the right. This is what we're expecting each month in those years. And so our debt service is $2,500, and our offerings plus monthly pledges is right around $4,000. So saying all that to say it looks like we can afford it, you know. And then, of course, the rent that we're paying now does not come from the building fund. It comes from the general fund. At this moment, we're assuming that is enough to cover utilities, maintenance, whatever there may be ongoing. I don't know if that'll be added to the building fund later, whatever the case may be there, but right now it's not. So there's additional money being applied to where we have church that is not coming from the building fund. So I hope that makes sense.
Thank you, Matt and Mark, and Stan and John also for had an early morning meeting yesterday, and everyone showed up and gave their 2 cents and then some, and got this put together. So thank you, Mark, for your especially creativity in getting the layouts. That was very helpful with getting some idea. It's for an idea. It's not for this is what final, but very possibly it has some. It would end up having some similarities, I guess. Any questions for any one of the financials? Yeah. Anything with this?
I realized I forgot to talk about the risk. That's what the 52% or whatever it was. So if we buy this and put these renovations into it, assuming value is very close to what we have in it, if we have that much cash and less than 50% liability, worst case scenario, something goes wrong, we can have an absolute fire sale and still cover our liabilities. That's where the 52% of having that amount of funds available beforehand takes the level of risk down a lot. And also there's a little bit of risk involved with putting long terms on loans. There's people that recommend not going 20 years for a church, so we elected to keep it at 15 years as a maximum.
Thank you, Mark. And I don't know if you all, I'm guessing most of you all seen the seating that we look for occupancy was right, like the second slide was 168 for both the fellowship hall side and the sanctuary side, and then the first one would have been 164. I don't know if you, so there's some that might not be able to pick that out. So that's the size sanctuary we were sort of looking at, the 150, 160 occupancy.
The church approval is needed. At this point, that's what we're looking for, is the church approval. But then there's also inspection objections, and there's, what is the other?
Due diligence.
Due diligence that we need to do, which includes going to the city, making sure this is exactly what we can do, what we need, what the city requires us to do. And so all of those things need to be followed up yet. But again, we haven't done all our due diligence yet, but we're working on that part of it. But we're getting there on that as well. So the first thing we need is obviously church approval. If we don't get church approval, there's no point in doing due diligence, so that's where we're at.
And just to clarify, this is only approval to purchase the building. We're not,
Right.
later we'll come back and say what route do you want to go on the building? But people wanted something they could visualize, so that's why Mark put that together.
I do think later on, if the property gets bought, another committee will be formed for a building committee or a renovation, whatever we want to call it. We are not that, just so you know. We may be involved in it, but we're not.
Right.
As of now. So we just threw something together to prove that we can put people in the building, that it's functional.
Mark, do you remember what the closing date is on?
Seems like September 3rd comes to mind.
That sounds
but-
right. I was gonna pull it up and I forgot to do it before I came up
Yeah,
here.
is that somehow?
I think it was the first Friday in September, right?
I think that would be the 5th.
Was
Right, first week in September
Yeah.
sometime.
Originally, when we were talking the loan, they had renters in it that were gonna leave the end of August, but it sounds like they actually might be out by the end of this month. So that could change around, but that's what we're looking at, is the 1st of September, the first week, if this all goes through. So yeah, right now, we are asking for approval, if that is where we wanna go or not, find direction. And, the last page on your pamphlet is a ballot. If you could turn to that, so, unless there's more questions before we go there. If you do need more time, you can contact me at a later time, but we would like to, everyone who's here, if you feel comfortable casting your vote at this time, we would definitely encourage that to happen and turned in. We were talking about whether it should be anonymous or not. Just because we're trying to get a full tally of people, we would like to have the names on it so we know who we can contact that we're not able to make it here this morning. Not that we want to condemn anyone for voting one way or the other. I could care less as far as that. It's nothing personal, and it's not that we want to follow up with you. It's just to try keeping tabs of who was able to cast a ballot or not. There's a box in the back on the coffee table.
It is for voting, it is for members voting.
Members only, yes. So, I think that's really all we have for this morning, unless somebody else.
I think Stan did a big one, everything, kind of just, whatever, like.
Oh, you wanna come say something? He said he'll do all the background work if I stand up here, so I try to keep my word on that. And yeah, thank you all for the support we felt from a lot of, yeah. But yeah, again,